Mr. Mark Miller, lead us in a prayer.
Would y'all please bow your heads and join me in prayer. Dear Lord, we thank you for the blessings of this beautiful day that you gave us today, and we ask that you continue to bless our lives and bless our water system and its employees. We ask you to watch over and guide us during this meeting to make decisions that are in the best interest of our water system and its members. We ask that you watch over and protect our military men and women, our first responders, all those that work to keep us safe and free every day. We ask these things in Jesus' name. Amen.
I'll lead us in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. Audio and video recorders are in use. If you would like to address the board, please fill out the member forum sign-up sheet. And first thing on the list is the employee recognition.
We need to announce a quorum too.
Thank you. There's 4 of us, so we have a quorum. There's 5.
All right, yeah, so first item here, we'd like to celebrate a service anniversary tonight. We have Josh Tittle here with us celebrating a 20-year anniversary with the company. He's our water operations lead. He is a AA operator, is that correct?
Correct.
Which is the highest level of certification by the state for water treatment operator. And a little anecdote about Josh is I believe he graduated high school on a Friday and came to work on a Monday or something else. So he's been here ever since. So he's really an integral part of our water team, and we're thankful to have him. So thank you, Josh. And we got a plaque and an award for you. So we'll get a picture here.
Approval of minutes and transcripts for April 16th, 2024, regular meeting, minutes and transcripts. Motion to approve.
I make a motion that we approve the minutes and transcripts as submitted.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes unanimously. Next.
So Mike, I think you need to at least ask, are there any no's?
Are there any no's?
As we're going forward, that's all.
Okay. The Board of Water Management, CIP, Holly Navarre Water System, well number 1, pump rehabilitation grinder.
That was a board action without a meeting, so I don't think we have
What-
to ratify that tonight. It's just on here as, for the record, I guess, that we
Okay.
approved that on May 1st.
Thank you. Next, the approval of memberships. April new memberships 289, canceled memberships 278, and 0 transfers.
You're on the wrong one.
Am I? Okay.
On the same
I
line.
had another one. We'll try that again. Approval of memberships. April new memberships 264, canceled memberships 247, and 0 transfers. Motion to approve.
Motion to approve the membership report.
Second. Yeah.
All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? So motion passes. Unfinished business. Will, can you?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, I had a need for your advice in a special meeting for legal matters regarding case number 23-000785-CA, Santa Rosa County versus Jernigan et al. In that special meeting, you provided me with advice, and I believe there's action that is necessary.
Mr. Campbell?
Mr. President, I'd like to make a motion to authorize the CEO and legal counsel to finalize negotiations with Florida Power and Light over the required easement on the Florida Power and Light parcel adjacent to Highway 87, and then to take the necessary easement actions to to Santa Rosa County for their final approval.
Thank you. Is
That's
there-
my motion.
Second?
I hear a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any nays? Motion passes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. That's the extent of the special meeting.
Thank you, Will. Okay, new business. 2023 consolidated financial audit presentation. Kristen McAllister, Warren Everett. Presentation, hauling of our water system, Messy, Club at Hidden Creek, 2023. Audited financial statement and the recommendations.
Yeah, so this was something we typically do in April. This year we're doing it in May, and Kristen is here to give us kind of an overview of the audit, and then if the board so desires, they can vote to approve the audit statements.
Yes. Thank you for having me here tonight. I do want to start off with apologizing for not being here in April. It was part of a sabbatical that I was out of work for the month of April. I'm also celebrating my 20th year with my firm, and it was one of our benefits that was provided. So the reflection of not being here in April, the audit was done before April. That was my conflict, not yours. So.
You just one-upped him. He got a plaque. You got a 1 month off.
I'm sorry. Sorry.
Yeah.
Trust me, it was a very hard month of being disconnected from the world, but we'll go through that another time. But thank you for having me here tonight. The system we are providing an unmodified opinion, which is the highest level of assurance we can provide. This audit was significantly different from last year's audit. There was significantly less journal entries and errors noted. I know you've worked through a lot over the past year. We had great cooperation from Barbara and her team as expected. And like I said, the audit process went smoothly. We just squeaked. We probably could have been here just at the very end of March. So like I said, our timing was really good with the audit overall. Couple high-level points, just reminding you these are the consolidated financial statements. So the financial statements you see in the front are consolidated to include the system, Messy, and the club. And in the back, there are individual schedules starting on page 22. Overall, the system had approximately $80 million in combined consolidated assets overall. A lot of that is within your utility plant operations expected. Your cash was consistent year over year at approximately $12.1 million. Some of that is restricted and pledged for various projects you have ongoing. I know that's not just all operating cash sitting there for fun for you. Liabilities overall increased approximately $800,000 in total year over year. A lot of that is due to your contracts and retainage payable in progress at 12/31, and that's your increase there. On your income statement, looking at your system revenues overall, we're about $16 million. That's about a $1.6 million total increase. A lot of that was related to system increases, usage, as well as club revenues. The club performed better this year as far as green fees and revenues. Overall, in the financial statement, the other thing we generally touch on is the pension plan. And for some reason, I don't have that note. That is on note 6 and starts on page 15. The pension plan was funded in 2023, and that was the first year it had been funded in a couple years. You haven't been required to fund that plan, but you did fund that in 2023. The final item I'll leave you with is last year we had a management recommendation letter with several comments for improvement. You have worked with that. We've met with management and gone through those items. There was significant improvement. We only had 2 comments this year. There was some changeover within your inventory system and reconciling your inventory. We've had numerous conversations on how that's going to go going forward and what they're going to do to reconcile that. And as well, there were still some issues noted within the year-end accounting close process for the club. And I know that there's been conversations with management about improving their close process. Overall, once again, we really appreciate working with the system, had great cooperation, and I'll entertain any questions you have.
I do. At the first, in your first letter, paragraph 10, there's a transfer from debit to credit of 115. Can you explain why that's annotated, what that's about?
Yeah, I noticed that too. I didn't understand that.
What?
Where is it, Joe?
On the opening letter, you do your opening letter with our heading. On the packet, it's page 2. Subparagraph 10 talks about account number 20-000-12, accounts receivable, debit, and then...
Okay, sorry.
No,
That's
that's
our
right.
letter to them.
Correct. This is your letter that represents all items that you provided us during the audit, and so that is a past journal entry, so.
Got it, okay, that's where we move, okay, all right.
Correct. And all that is a reclass for people that have prepaid on their water account.
Got
And
it.
it is, instead of being reported as a credit, it's reported as a debit. It's just a classification, and so it's not an entry that's necessary for posting, which has been qualified in your report. There's no wrong error, nothing to be concerned. That is very standard, normal practice, but we have to provide that to you and have you represent. We do understand that's not included in our financials. Okay.
But that's something we told you we did, and that way you knew it, okay.
And that's an annual, that is in there every single year. Yes.
Anybody, I have one other question. So on page 20, it talks about FDIC and sweep accounts.
Okay.
And I think that may be a discussion that we may have later in the year, but that's from accounting practices, that's standard because FDIC only goes to so much, but the way banks do it, our finances, our money that's in the bank is really protected still.
So technically, no. Technically, you have it divided between various banks, and some accounts are covered at a higher level. This is a culmination of accounts that are exceeding that threshold. So in theory, you could be at risk of that 1.9 million as of 12/31 if the bank did collapse at that point.
But the way they do it, in your view, is an acceptable level of protection.
Correct. That does not,
Okay.
with the banks that you're banking in, that is not a significant risk in my mind. I am seeing a lot more of my clients going back to looking at sweep accounts, going back to dividing up their money. I mean, we used to have it, back divided between 10 different banks to get it all under FDIC.
Mm-hmm.
I think it still depends on what level and what banks you're involved with,
Mm-hmm.
but there is still a heightened awareness of that in this market right now.
And then the last thing, and I'll cede the floor to somebody else, is on the last 2 pages, and I don't remember seeing these before, there's adjustment entries, but that's just minor stuff that you picked up and you've told us about, or?
Correct. Those are journal entries, and several of which have the acronym before it, PBC, which means provided by client, which means Barbara has already provided
Got it, okay.
to us.
So you
after
just
the books
confirmed-
have been closed,
Got it, okay.
yes. And then
All right.
several of them are things that we've discussed or she's brought to our attention that need to be adjusting. The journal entries are significantly less than they were. I wanted to say they were almost in the 40s last year, significantly less.
Okay, good, thank you.
And I know that I will say we've had conversation, there's even more journal entries she's working to post this year and understand from that, working to get your monthly packet closer to where the audit is.
But as far as the inventory tracking and the monthly closing at the club, you're pretty confident we're on the right track?
Based on conversations we've had with management of what they're working on this year, yes.
Okay, that's all I have, Mr. Chair.
To follow up on that, the inventory tracking, it recommends either monthly or quarterly, or what are we doing? This is a question for Jeff, not Kristen, but what are we doing on inventory? Are we gonna
So,
do monthly or quarterly?
quite honestly, we're still working through, we've gone, quote unquote, gone live with our Edmunds billing, and they're still integrating the inventory piece. So whether they'll do counts, monthly or quarterly going forward, I don't think they've figured. I think quarterly is, I believe, the answer, but we're still working through what that inventory is going to look like. we wanted to get kind of the billing squared away before we tackle the inventory. I think they had to do a count for your,
Correct, we did a count
Right.
in February.
right, but we'll essentially have to redo it once we get our Edmunds inventory up and running.
Any more discussion? Thank you, Kristen.
I'd like to make a motion that we approve the 2024 audit, or 2023 audit as presented.
Second.
And can I add to that motion that it be published on our website as well?
Second that as well.
Yes, and I've told them they should have a copy of it tomorrow, so it'll be available for publish.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. Next is the CEO update. Mr. Kriegler.
And
Just to
clarify, we want the final version posted to the website, not the draft
Right.
one that we have
Right.
approved.
Correct.
Thank you, Chris.
All right, so I have two items tonight. The first has to do with a request for a charitable contribution. We are approached by the chamber. Next year, the Navarre Chamber is having a centennial celebration, 100 years. We have Mr. Frankie Gibbs here representing the chamber. We're going to let him say a few words here in a minute. You know, the charitable contribution was placed in the budget for 2024. We haven't really, we haven't committed anything. There hadn't been kind of a strong push to do that. However, Mark brought this to our attention, and Frankie emailed us. This is something that at least Mark and I felt is worthy of discussion. So I'll let Mark say a few words, and if Frankie wants to come up and talk as well, we can do that.
Yeah, I mean, thank you, Frankie, for being here. And this is something that the Navarre Chamber of Commerce is putting together. It's 100 years that Navarre, I guess they went back and found the first record of a plat for Navarre was in 1925. And so they're kind of embracing that, and 2025 will be a centennial year. Frankie can tell us more about the events that they're planning, but Holly Navarre Water System has been a member of the Chamber for over 25 years, and they're looking for local businesses and organizations that are Chamber members to step up and support the event, and there are some good PR benefits of doing that. So Frankie, would you like to come to the podium and give us a brief summary of what it involves?
Okay, first of all, good evening, everyone. As Mark said, my name is Frankie Gibbs, and I came here with the Air Force in July of 1999, and it's hard to believe that it's been that long. Been a long-time member of the Chamber of Commerce. After retiring here and being an avid member of the Chamber of Commerce for 20 years, apparently I developed a speech impediment, lost the ability to say no, and I find myself taking on more and more. One of the most exciting and what I consider to be one of the most significant accomplishments for this community of Navarre is the fact that in 2025 we will turn 100 years old. Now, 100 years old, as a lot of towns goes, I mean, that's pretty much an infant. But for us, it really is a big deal. Taking into consideration where we've come and how much of that growth that made us to what we are today really happened in the last 50 years. So, I'm taking on this project to start it with 3 artifacts that I found that ties into that day. I ran across in the archives of the county's clerk's office what is believed to be the original plat signed by the founder, an individual named at that time Colonel Guy Wyman, who was sent to this region about 1906, still in the Army, working for the Corps of Engineers. He brought a team here, and they actually surveyed the coastline from Barrancas all the way to Sandestin. And if you can imagine what that must have been like. Totally undeveloped, horses, pack mules, and how long that had to take. Anyway, fast forward, he was so taken and invited, wrote his parents up in Illinois as they came down. They fell in love with it immediately. They were able to buy large tracts of land, and that started. One of the second artifacts that I found was a copy of a full-page ad that ran in the Milton Gazette, March 13th of 1925, and it talked about lots for sale in this beautiful Navarre subdivision. He talked about the beautiful unspoiled white sand and how beautiful it was, starting at $50. The one note that sticks in my mind, a little footnote that says how beautiful the place was, and no undesirables will be able to put up a shack next to you. So even then, it was really a big deal. And then on that original plat, Colonel Guy Wyman had the foresight to allocate an area for a tourist camp. Even as far back as the early 20s, in 1925 in particular, there were people that had the vision to see what this area could become. And then from that point, the third artifact I found was a copy of the minutes from the Board of County Commissioners, March 30th, 1925, that was a proposal brought forth by a county commissioner, a gentleman by the name of Walter Broxton. And I'm sure most of you in this room are familiar with the Broxton family name. He was one of the county commissioners. They asked for a road to be cut in from East Milton down through Navarre subdivision that would eventually connect to Camp Walton. It even predates what we know as Fort Walton, was Camp Walton back then. From my research, I found out that that road they talked about is what we know now is Highway 87. And I've asked a lot of people about when was it started, when was this. Finally, after contacting the Florida State Department of Transportation, the gentleman told me, he says, well, I can't put my hands on anything that tells you, but I can tell you that what we know as Highway 87 was budgeted in 1928. So, and then move on to that, we talked about what we know as Highway 98, and the paving of it was like in the 30s, and they started to make it four lane in approximately 1932, 33 time frame. And from that, and the bridge, 1961. So, as I do this research, it got even more and more excited. So, we'll put a team together on behalf of the Chamber of Commerce. I'm here, I'm the spokesperson. Turns out, you got somebody who's willing to do the work, you know, they will let you do it. And of course, there's hordes of people pitching in to help. And now I'm at the point that it's time to do the heavy lifting. That heavy lifting is to do all of these elaborate things in celebration. Of course, it takes fundraising, it takes reaching out to sponsors. The Centennial Committee, what the plan is, we're going to kick off that year with, on New Year's Eve, we're going to do a turtle drop. And I find myself every single time when I mention that, I have to caveat that with, no, it's not going to be a live turtle. It's going to be a lighted silhouette of a turtle that will be raised up to a point of approximately 75 or 80 feet per the fire department who's on board for the apparatus. And then lowered as we approach midnight. Lighted and then lowered. And then at the appointed time, there will be fireworks that will go off at the end of the pier. And it's my understanding, it's been a long time, nobody can tell me exactly when we've had fireworks at New Year's Eve. But so far, that's going to happen. So that will be the first event that we want to do to kick off the centennial year. We're planning a year-long celebration. And from that point, after that goes, and of course there will be music and festivities that goes with it. It is going to be an exciting time. Following that, we are planning a black tie formal ball, March 29th. March being the actual month that Navarre was founded. We started out calling it a gala, and it turns out everybody has gala fever. Everybody has a gala, so I was asked if we were consider changing it to a ball. So we're having a formal black tie ball. I hope to see everybody there. But that's going to be, my goal is to make that one of the most memorable formal events that we've seen in a long time. And for a guy that's been married for over 40 years, date night is a real big thing. And my theory is, you go out on a date, it's always a big deal. If you wear a tie, extra points. You put a tuxedo on, that's got to be somewhere up there next level. But anyway, we're planning it. We're planning to have the best meal in the region, the best time. And then the third event, that major signature event that we're planning is approximately September, around Labor Day of 2025. We're having a community festival. And those of you who can remember back in the days when we used to do something called Fun Fest, it's going to be something on that format. It's going to be in the park. That there is a monument there, a tribute to the Wyman family, who, now I don't want to get too deep into that, but apparently they own all that land on the coastline, and back in the Depression, money got a little tight, and he started selling up parcels. Eventually gave that portion to the county that is now park. The land, if you're familiar with Highway 98, particularly where Panhandle Trail comes out, there's a trailer, not a trailer park, but a campground there. That was part of the original Wyman's homestead. Sold to the Slides, I think, in the 70s. Anyway, Colonel Guy Wyman, the founder, eventually retired, sold the property, moved to Fort Walton, was an engineer at Eglin, first chief of police at Valparaiso, passed away in approximately 53, and I think he's got a granddaughter that lives in the area. But I'm here to ask that the Water Board would consider supporting our initiative. Well, like I said, there's been tremendous things happening to Navarre, and watch it go from no grocery stores to 6 supermarkets, 1 medical facility to 5, and 3 of which have helicopter landing pads, and we are really gaining more momentum, and we're moving forward. So I hope that you will consider the request. I emailed it to a couple of the board members, the president and Mr. Krieger there, and that's my
Emerald did send out the sponsorship package that has the different sponsorship levels to the board today.
When was that?
This afternoon.
Yeah.
Yeah, it came in late. I glanced at it, I didn't.
Yeah, it was small.
Yeah, I didn't.
excuse me, I took the liberty to bring 1 copy. I'm sorry I didn't know how many that I might need, so I will offer this. If you want to take the opportunity to glance through it, pass it around, sir, it'd be my pleasure. In other words, I'm here to answer any questions that you might have, if I can.
But I want to see what the appetite of the board is. I think this, we have, $10,000 in the budget for sponsorships and charitable donations and that kind of thing. And right now we haven't used any of that this year. I think, I know this is an event next year, but I'm assuming y'all are wanting to go ahead and start funding some of this as soon as possible. The sponsorship levels range from $500 to $40,000, and I don't think we would be anywhere near, if we were good stewards of our finances here, 40,000 level. But I would like to see us commit to sponsoring this centennial event. It's something that's going to benefit the whole community all next year. It's not just one event for one organization. It's for the whole community.
I thought the budget amount should have been 0. I don't care if it's 10,000. We should be philanthropic with our own money, but not our members' money. I think that this organization sponsoring things and doing charitable contributions is wrong. I've always thought that and I always will.
I agree with Daryl.
Okay. Any other opinions on that?
My opinion would be the same, yeah. I mean, we went through this, yeah, we discussed it at the budget. It wasn't, 10,000's in there, but there was a lot of discussion about it.
We just raised rates on members. I just don't know that
Yeah.
this is the year to do that, so no. I
Then we'll die with, for lack of a motion then.
We didn't get a motion.
I'm not gonna make a motion that I know is gonna fail.
Yeah.
All right, well, I truly thank you, gentlemen, for giving me the opportunity to be here and for your questions. Thank you so very much.
Thank you
for coming.
Thanks for coming in.
Wish you best of luck with that. I know you will get a lot of support in the community for that.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
My second item, last month I was asked to look at the cost for an update to our pension obligation report that we had done back, and I believe in 2022. The cost to do that was in the $4,000 to $5,000 range. That'd be an update of a report done by our actuary, GHB. Talked to several board members about it, and there didn't seem to be a lot of support for spending that amount of money to update that report, as it seems to be fairly with the changes in the economy. It seems to only be good for a couple of years anyway. So the consensus I got was if we fund the amounts required properly, stay on top of it, then we shouldn't have an issue, and that this may not be a good thing to spend. So I'm as of right now, won't take any action on it unless the board wants to discuss again and move forward with it.
The information that we got before, I know it's not completely relevant now, but it's only a few years old. Is that something we might need to, at least look at what they?
I think we certainly could circulate it again and say, here's what it is. Everybody read this again, and then if anybody has any questions or thinks that it would be worthwhile to proceed, we can certainly do that. The concern was that it seemed like it's 2024 and this thing's already kind of out of date and needed to be updated. Well, it was done, 2.5 years ago. The economy changes so quickly, it's going to happen again. So we didn't see the utility in it, and that's kind of why I was hesitating. But why don't I do that? Why don't I circulate that it's only like a 6-7 page report, circulate it again, let everybody get refreshed with it. I don't know if Mike's even seen it. And then if we need to talk about it, we can talk about it some more. I'll do that.
I'm a little surprised that the cost just to update that is what it is,
I would think that something like that should be included in our, in the fees they charge us every year.
You would think to some level, I don't know how in-depth they went
Right.
through this analysis, but, just to update it.
Well, and there could be something he can do for a lesser amount, and we can have that discussion with him. But if I send you the document, you'll see the scope of what he did, and you can see what you get for that money. So I'll do that. That was all I had for CEO update.
All right. Next, finance. Review of March 2024 quarterly financials.
I'll just mention a few quick items from March. We did receive $619,000 from our state grant. That's for the Eglin project. We also, in the last board meeting, we did approve the payment to the pension in the amount of $206,345. We made that payment, and that will be revisited again in fall of 2024 for the total amount for 2024 contributed. This past last week, we did do our first quarterly budget review meeting. I'm happy to report that our overall revenue numbers were at 27%, and that's for the first quarter, which is 25% of the year, so that's a little bit ahead, which is good. Our overall admin expenses were right on budget at 25%. Water expenses were under at 22%, and wastewater expenses were under budget at 18% for the quarter. So just good news there, as we're up on revenue and a little under on expenses through the first quarter. So starting the year off good. So that was kind of the high notes. So I don't know if anybody has any other comments on the financials for March.
I don't.
And that all applies to just the water system, doesn't include its subsidiaries, right?
That's correct. The quarterly review, that was for the water system.
All right, so no discussion on that? The finance? We can move on?
We need a motion and a second, and then I have discussion.
Okay.
I make a motion, we approve the financial statements as presented.
I'll second that.
Discuss away.
Yeah, I have a discussion on a couple of things. Finance-wise, it's more in line with the club at Hidden Creek. At last month's meeting, there was a mention that we have an insurance policy that renews in a couple of days, and we hadn't had a quote on that yet. I think it was $18,000 the year before.
Correct.
And did you get a quote on that?
So, I don't know, Don was going to mention this in his report, but insurance is an interesting thing. I had kind of prepped everybody that renewal was going to be well over $25,000, and hey, be on the lookout, this is coming before the board. And lo and behold, it comes back around 20, which was within my spending limit. We got that last week, and I signed off on it, so that's renewed.
Okay.
Yeah.
That was my question. Did it come in, and did we get it renewed?
Yep.
The other question is on the spray field costs. As of month end, March 2024, we're at $46,769, and that's a quarter of the way through the year. I'm just curious, is that going to keep us on budget for the year?
It's a pace to slightly exceed, but I would add that we had a large pump expense in January.
Right. Okay.
And I think as of right now, and Clinton, correct me if I'm wrong, I believe we've upgraded 3 of the 4 pumps almost completely now. So we don't expect a lot of issues with those pumps this year.
So as long as we stick, I don't know, what was it this month, 9,000 and some
Right.
change, we'll still stay within budget?
That's correct.
Okay. That's all I had.
So we're ready to vote on the approval of the March quarterly. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any nays? Motion passes. Director's update. Finance committee updates. Rob Lowe is at the ball game.
Yeah.
Clinton's here.
5-2.
Winning or losing?
Yeah.
Oh, it's
All right.
Oh, good. All right.
Capital improvements, got our meeting on our capital projects. They're moving forward as planned. Obviously, the Eglin project and the booster pump station are the main ones right now, trying to get those, keeping those going. So everything's within budget at this point.
Thank you, Darrell. And budget, O&M,
Yeah,
Mr. Campbell?
Jeff covered everything on the budget, pretty much on course.
So then we got the regional reuse project, Mr. Crumley, who's on vacation. You want to?
Yep, I'll give a quick update
Thanks,
on
Jeff.
that. 2 main, updates there. Phase 1B, which is the pipeline from our wastewater plant all the way to the Eglin property, is out for bids. We'll open those bids on June 11th. Hopefully award at the June board meeting. We did have a pre-bid meeting, and we had a very good showing of interested contractors. So we're hopeful of a very competitive bid. There was some good questions asked, and looks like there's a lot of local interest in the project. Phase 1A, which is the portion currently under construction, is nearing completion. All the basins are in, the liners are down, they've even got some of the grass planted. There's still a little bit of remaining work. They've got to add the concrete drives down into each rib, do the fence, but other than that, it's nearing completion. We think they'll be done in a few months, if not sooner. So.
All right, so next we got the club at Hidden Creek, Management Board, Mr. Linnell.
Yeah, so the biggest news, we already did get the insurance policy renewed at a much better price than we were prepping for or bracing for. So that was good news. Tons of maintenance going on as normal. Weather last month wasn't the best, didn't make our revenues, but expenses also were down because we couldn't do some of this stuff. So it was still a net positive overall. And start of this month has been pretty good. And there's been several days of more than 150 people out there playing, and that's a really good day for the course when that happens.
Excellent. Fairpoint Regional Utility System.
I have nothing new to report at Fairpoint this month. Everything's kind of business as usual.
And then Mr. Phillips.
I don't think I have anything significant to report either.
All right, on to equipment purchase from Messi.
Yeah, so I'll start, and Phil can certainly add in here. So in March, we received the camera rig. We did a demo. I know most of the board was able to check it out. Mark Turner was able to kind of test drive that thing in the field. It's really useful, and he's really likes the equipment. He did find two little things that he wanted to, I guess, improve upon. The first one has to do with kind of some weather protection for the sides of the unit, so that computer equipment doesn't get wet when it's out there in the elements. And the other item is a lateral launch camera that will allow us to essentially look up a lateral from within a sewer main. Currently, the camera on there, it will go up and down a 8-inch or bigger gravity line, but it won't look up a lateral, which is at a member's service up to their property line. So adding that capability will really give them really kind of the full capability to inspect our sewer system anywhere. So this is a messy purchase, and we're asking the board to approve the purchase of this additional equipment.
I make a motion we approve the purchase of equipment from Messi in the amount of $33,491.73.
Could I make one correction, Darryl?
Sure can.
I noticed that the coastal canvas estimate that was provided kind of late, the sales tax is in addition to the 2125, which is on the second summary sheet. I would suggest the total is going to be closer to like 33.7, Darryl, or maybe 33.750 would cover it. There's $159.38 worth of sales tax that I do not believe is covered in the $33,493.73.
I amend my motion to change it from $33,491.73 to $33,750.
I'll second that.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. Next, we got diesel bypass pump. Mr. Krugler?
Yes, so as part of our unrestricted budget, we had identified purchasing one additional diesel bypass pump to supplement our fleet. These are used predominantly at lift stations when we're doing maintenance, replacing a pump, or there's some problem where we need to bypass the station. These are very handy pieces of equipment, and we need multiple bypass pumps for our wastewater collection system. We opened these bids on May 8th. We received 8 bids, which was also very good. A couple of them were kind of ruled out because they didn't really meet the spec. Prices ranged in the high 50s up to 79,000. Staff has looked at this and is recommending the pump from Thompson Pump in the amount of $58,445.
We get a motion to
I make a
approve.
motion to approve the purchase of a diesel bypass pump from Thompson Pump and Manufacturing, for $58,445.
Are they local? Oh, I'm sorry.
I don't know.
Thompson is.
They are local, and they got a service center in Pensacola.
Yeah,
One
they're
reason why
good,
we
Joe.
chose them.
They're the local guys. Yeah.
Sorry, I did.
No, you're good.
I'll second the motion that was made after
Yeah.
my
I
question.
didn't think there was.
Thompson's
Nope, there
good.
wasn't. So I got a question. So this was in the budget for this year or CIP part?
$55,000.
55,000 in
55?
unrestricted, yep, so a little bit over,
Just need a
but
little extra 3.
yeah, we'll
Okay.
absorb it.
Right. Take that out of Clinton's truck.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. And next, we have engineering. Mr. Phillips.
Just a couple of things to point out. The last couple of months, we pointed out how the I&I went up again. And if you'll look at the numbers for this past month, you'll see that it's actually a negative number, which is more like what we would expect this time of year, which the radical change from one month to the other is actually a good thing. It means that a lot of the issues that we've had with high groundwater have been solved. Mark continues to work in the easement areas with the side-by-side. He's found several things. I have no doubt that that'll substantially affect the total, but I do point that out. And then for Clinton's benefit, on the water loss, the water loss is again 11.4% this month. They continue to try and figure out exactly what's going on. They've had some weird data between water sold and water pumped. I think Clinton is of the opinion we may have a meter problem somewhere that he was going to check before they get too deep in the weeds on leaks, but they have begun to look for leaks in a few areas too. So there's something going on somewhere that they continue to look for.
All right, thank you.
The analytics, I guess, that we have, does that help us at all at isolating the areas where, you know, that might be happening, or is it?
Not
just
really isolating where, but when, more so. We've talked in the past, not to get too deep in the weeds, but we've actually talked in the past about installing some system meters that would allow us to isolate water sold versus water moving into certain areas. That would not be an insignificant expense. I mean, it wouldn't be millions of dollars, but it would be substantial. You know, the system has a pretty good history for water loss over time. It's only relatively recently that we've kind of seen this weirdness where we've had a hard time isolating it. If this became kind of a normal situation, we probably would go back and start looking at, you know, a system-wide metering to try and isolate it and putting them in one at a time, you know, to see if we can find a problem area. But again, that's a, you know, a significant expense that, you know, you might put 10 of them in and not find your problem.
Yeah.
So, you know, you just have to, it is what it is.
I mean, for quite a while, it's been like 8% or higher, and I don't know what that costs us in dollars and cents, if it makes
That's where I
sense
was
to,
gonna get.
you know, start
They want
little by
to,
little putting these meters in to isolate it.
it doesn't, the answer, Mark, to what it costs the system, it really doesn't cost the system in terms of money. That
Yeah.
incremental production of water does not cost money. What it costs is capacity. You know, with a limited capacity and the fact that we receive a substantial amount of our water from Fairpoint, we're paying Fairpoint for that, so there is some additional costs that wouldn't be our production related. But the first production that gets cut when we find a leak is our own production, which costs practically nothing. But again, the real problem is we have a water management district limit that is very tight. I mean, it's not like they just give us anything we want and get to settle on it. And then, of course, there is a regulatory requirement that we be below 10% loss. So, and the system really has kind of run in the 6 to 8% for a long time, which is very satisfactory, so.
So is this a wearing out of infrastructure, or to go from 6 to 8, or you're saying because it's a spike in the last 2 months? I didn't quite understand that last thing you said.
We've actually had this happen to us a couple of times over the last 2 years. And, a couple of times we found leaks, they finally shown themselves.
Yeah, it's tough in the sand.
The answer to the question, Joe, is we don't know. That's the bottom line, is that, there's only, we're in the process of having Fairpoint meters checked, so that will check the Fairpoint meter incoming, because there was some thought that maybe our incoming Fairpoint meter might be part of the problem. And then Jeff may know more about this. They were talking the other day about rechecking the meters at our wells to make sure we didn't have an issue somewhere.
So there's a method to go through to eliminate where you think it may be.
You do all the things that you absolutely positively can eliminate, and then you get to the ones that are very difficult, which is actually you have a leak somewhere in the system and you just can't find the leak because it's going somewhere that it's very difficult to find. Like it's the water line underneath Williams Creek, and we're putting 100,000 gallons a day at Williams Creek.
Got it.
So.
All right, thanks, Phil.
All right. Next, I believe we're on to members forum, unless anybody else has anything they want to discuss. And we had Leanne Cash.
Hello, good evening. You need my address? I have to do that.
Please.
Okay. Leanne Cash, 7101 Knollwood Drive, Navarre, Hidden Creek Estates. We didn't realize that we had a problem at my house. I'm at the end of the first street, right when you pull into Hidden Creek Estates, off of 399 until this last rain. We are at the end of the cul-de-sac, where if you're looking at hole 1 and hole 2, where the spray field is always spraying into that greenbelt area, we're directly on the other side. We have been able to see water probably 75 feet back, 100 feet back. We moved there in 2013, bought in 2014. Never really had any problem. This last year, we've noticed that the creek that runs alongside, that goes to the large pond on Knollwood, that then goes under the road and over to hole 3, goes through there. Do you know what I'm talking about?
I think so.
That creek has pretty much stopped flowing. So we now have this still stagnant creek that's there that never really goes down too low. It used to get really, really low. They would kind of open it and close it as they needed for the golf course, what they've always done. Last year or so, we've noticed it hasn't really went. We kind of thought the water was kind of creeping up on us a little bit after this last rain. A day after the water had receded, it was through my fence and to my pool. It has went 50 feet really quickly. The creek does not go down. It's not moving. We talked with Joe, can't remember his last name. He's at the end of the street. He's the first house built in Hidden Creek. He's at the pond. He said that someone from the golf course came and they put a block on it, and so they've sealed it off there. And there's something connected on the other side of his property where the pond would then flow underneath the road and go. So it used to flow pretty quickly. Like if I was teeing off on hole 3, you could really hear the water going. It doesn't do that now. So what we have now happening is I have a constant water spray coming on this side, and then the creek has stopped. So we are completely flooding my house, and probably don't realize that we're doing it. I'm assuming it was never the intention, but that's what's happening. So I asked that, first, I don't know why it was sealed off to where we don't have that flow the way we've always have. I don't know who or why they did it at Hidden Creek. And then to see what we can do, who I can meet with, they can come to the house, do whatever we need to do to get some flow going. I'm not saying it has to be constant, but
Got some golfers. I have no idea.
No, no, I noticed the
Yeah,
same
let's-
thing, that
let's
underneath
get
the
on the-
bridge.
I think there's two issues here. The first appears to be, I believe what she's insinuating is that creek has somehow been dammed up somewhere. I don't believe it was our staff that did that.
No,
But I
but,
think that may have happened for sure.
well, I was gonna ask at some point to make sure the beaver didn't dam it like
I
they
was
do
gonna
William
say,
Creek.
yeah, but,
We've done it before,
Right.
several times.
yeah, so we can look into that. The second issue has to do with that particular spray head and looking at the frequency of that, and is there some
Yeah, but if the
flexibility
creek
there.
hadn't backed
So,
up like it is now.
Yeah.
There hadn't been.
Yeah,
Right.
let me look into those two issues.
we've asked the superintendent to stop. He stopped for a month or two and then he started it again. So he probably didn't realize that the creek, I'm assuming, was stopped. There is, I think, a beaver dam
Yeah.
at the beginning of it, but when I spoke with Joe, he's, how old's Joe? 80, Joe?
Joe Checkley.
Yes. Yeah, he's in his 80s. He said a man came out there and put a piece, because we thought he had someone do it. He said, no, it wasn't me. It was Hidden Creek, and so you really need to go talk to the water board.
Yeah, I seem to recall the potential blockage being downstream of 3, past the bridge. So that's where we can look, and might have even been off our property. Is that maybe why nothing's happened? So let us look into that again. There was some initial discussion, and I'll talk to Haynes about that spray head as well.
I'm sure no one's intending on flooding out.
Right,
my
no.
home. So I'm like, as long as you know about it. Is there anybody that can reach out to, or I can reach out to?
We could follow back up with you if you just give us your email or phone after the meeting or now,
Yeah.
whatever you'd like
Sure,
to do.
certainly.
Perfect.
Cool, thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
Everybody else?
Motion
Nope,
adjourned?
that's it. Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Josh, I'm proud of you for sticking around